Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this afternoon's interview session with DJ Shub. My name is Kat Pasquatch, and I work at the University of Windsor as the Outreach and Retention Coordinator. We have partnered up with St. Clair College Indigenous Student Center this weekend to host our second annual alumni and student powwow. As a part of that, tonight we are hosting DJ Shub for a concert performance, and he has graciously joined us this afternoon for an interview. So with that, I'd like to introduce Victoria Heckner, who is an sorry, I did that. Close my phone. Sorry. Victoria Heckner is an Indigenous writer and a member of Ochapowace Nation in Saskatchewan. She has just completed English and creative writing here at the University of Windsor and is joining our staff today, being her first day. So she is also the host of Drums Before Sundown, a radio show on CJAM 99.1 FM that features music from Indigenous artists every Wednesday from 2 to 3. She will be interviewing our guest of honor, DJ Shub, who is a Mohawk DJ and music producer known for blending traditional Indigenous sounds with modern electronic beats. He gained fame as a member of Tribe Called Red and released his debut solo album, Powwow Step, in 2016. He uses his platform to advocate for Indigenous rights and celebrate Indigenous culture. Please welcome them this afternoon with me.
Great. Thank you so much, Kat. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Victoria.
I actually went to the Juno Awards last year and saw you, and I'm not trying to be biased, but I think you since 9 Years Res Kids performance was the best. The crowd was so energetic when you guys came on.
Yeah.
So definitely excited to have you here today.
Awesome.
So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
So we have some questions that were sent in from the students that are watching today. And then we also have some that I'm going to ask you. Okay. And so we can start off with just kind of an easy one. Can you tell us about your journey to becoming a DJ and how your Indigenous background has really inspired your music?
Well, my journey really started, if you go way back, I like to say that, the influence of music growing up really influenced me and who I am today. And that all started with my parents. Like, as anybody else, who's influenced by music, and usually it's what your parents are listening to when you're growing up. So my father was into classic rock. So it was tons of, Molly Hatchet, Doobie Brothers. And my mom was disco, either just like Donna Summers or a lot of Michael Jackson. I remember Michael Jackson being played a lot. My mom would always tell me that she would put on the Thriller album, and I would hold on to the nightstand and just start bobbing up and down to it. So, since an early age, I've loved music, and it's always been around. And I have an older brother who influenced me as far as like when we started growing up. He listened to hip hop and rap and everything like that in the early days. So that really, those three things really kind of influenced me into like loving music to the point where I would follow my brother. He was a DJ. So my brother was a DJ. He's like 6 years older than me. So I just thought it was the coolest thing to watch him DJ. So he would take me to like the record stores to get music, and I would just always follow him and just watch and check out all these records. And it was just such an incredible time, and for the love of music. And he saw the passion I had for, this music. And he's the one that actually he bought me my first turntable setup. And if I'd still say if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today for sure. So that's where it started. So it started then, fast forward a couple years, I started DJing and producing around the same time. Again, producing music. My brother showed me programs for free that I could get, that I can make music on. So he really, I give a lot of credit to my brother for set me on the path that I've chosen. But yeah, he's showed me a bunch of things to make music on. So I just started making music and at the same time, like I said, DJing. And I was just self-taught, like just watching him how to mix. And then I would watch videos. There was no YouTube back then. So I would have to get VHS tapes and watch them to learn how to, like, I was really interested in scratching. So it's like an aspect of the DJing culture that is kind of lost, but it's coming back. And so I fell in love with scratching like from an early age. So I knew that's what I wanted to do. So, I started doing the whole scratching and the DJ battling thing. And that was my goal, was to just be the best battle DJ out there. And so and to prove that, there was competitions, there's big DJ competitions out there that I would enter into. And, so that was like, that got me into the DJ battling thing of it. And I kind of made a name for myself as I won like a Canadian championship, and, I represented Canada at like this big DJ championships in London, overseas. So it really, I made a name for myself as far as being a scratch DJ. And at the time, A Tribe Called Red, they were in Ottawa, and they used to throw parties with DJs, and they reached out to me because they heard that I was an Indigenous DJ that just, represented Canada, and, I'm a DJ battle skilled guy. So they brought me out just to do a showcase in Ottawa. And it was that party that changed the way that I make music. It was like I got to this party, and I never seen so many Native faces out there. And this club was packed full, and everybody was vibing out to this music that they were mixing. And they were mixing like traditional music with like dubstep songs and like dance hall reggae stuff. And I was like blown away. I was like, this is amazing. And just seeing the vibe and seeing how everybody was just into the music, didn't care what was happening. It was just and I felt it. I got goosebumps thinking about it right now. That was a big thing for me, because I was like, okay, I told the guys, I said, listen, I produce, and I've been producing for a while since then, mostly just hip hop. So I said, okay, I'm a producer. Let me take this thing and let me try to do something with it, and see what we can come up with. So I went home after that crazy weekend, and it was a couple days during the week, and the first song I made was Electric Power Drum. And I sent it to them, not thinking it was going to be, I'm like, oh, geez. I was like, I don't know if these guys like this or whatever, but they heard it and they're just like, wow. They're like, I got the instant invite to come out and join their crew. So, and then once I did that, I just started, that was my main focus, was creating powwow step. And that's where the whole genre of powwow step kind of was birthed, was then. So, and yeah, since then it's been a crazy ride to where I am now. So that's kind of like the shortened version.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
I think family can definitely be a really big influence. And I also think that's really inspiring too for younger audiences, because if you didn't enter those contests, if you didn't put yourself out there, you may not have been as successful as you are today. So by taking that risk, look what happens. So.
Yeah, sacrifice, right? Like, and I tell a lot of people when I talk to youth and stuff like that, I always tell them, like, you gotta, if you want to strive for something that you really love, there's things you need to sacrifice. Whether, for me, it was time. I knew that if I wanted to be the best DJ I could be, I had to stay in. I had nights where my friends would go out, and I would just stay in by myself and just practice. And that's the thing. It's like, practice is not going to make you perfect, but it will make you better. Promise that. So I that was my mindset, and yeah, it just ended up working. Yeah.
So one of your albums, War Club, you combine messages of Indigenous resilience and resistance. So what do you hope to convey with that album, and what's the most important message that you want your audience to know?
I think it's just to hold on to that traditional thing, going into the crazy times that we're getting into nowadays. I mean, like, there's always something. The War Club for me represents that traditional thing that represents, for me, it's the music is my war club. That's what I always like to tell people. It's like it's that traditional thing that I like to take and try to use in today's world. You know what I mean? And you can't really go around using a war club. You know what I mean? So the war club represents my music. So and I think whatever your war club is, it may not be a war club. It's whatever represents you traditionally wise. Going into the future or whatever. Yeah.
And there's been a lot of questions from students about how you combine traditional music with the more modern. So can you talk a little bit about that, and kind of how you find the right balance between the two and kind of why you incorporate both into your music?
Well, in the beginning, it was like the genre that really kind of melded well with traditional music was dubstep. So like dubstep at the time was kind of the same tempo as like the traditional music that we were mixing at the time, and the two just kind of went together. But the music evolved, like, and the way that I made the music, it was kind of like, okay, well, let's see where else this music can fit into. You know what I mean? Like I started thinking outside the box instead of just being dubstep. Like, okay, well, there's certain songs like smoke dance songs that are really fast, and like, okay, well, the smoke dance songs kind of fit with like juke and like higher tempo songs. So it's fun learning where this music could fit into, and War Club is a perfect example of me doing that. Like there's a dub reggae style song on there. There's a hardcore dubstep song. There's a Moombahton song. There's all these different kind of genres that fit so well with this music. It's pretty, it's when I'm making the music, sometimes I'm like, okay, the creator's doing this. Like the creator is. I'm not doing this. Like I get into this zone where everything just fits so well and magically that this can't be just me doing this. You know what I mean? So I really do believe that this is, something that the creator is helping me do to help, spread this tradition and this music and this culture to everybody.
The music is so good too. Whenever I hear an Indigenous track that kind of combines the two elements that you do, I think this could easily be in the top 10.
Oh, thank you.
So do you think that Indigenous music will one day be like in a top genre, or do you think there's still a long way to go for global recognition?
I think it will. It'll get there. It's going to take its time, just like everything else, I think. But my job is to open that door. My job is to get as far as I can with this music, and to let the next generation come through that same door, so they can lead the way. I know so many different producers, young producers coming up that are like my son. My son's a perfect example. He has learned. I've taught him what I've learned, and he's taken it to the next level. And I see, a lot of producers that are his age coming up like that, and to think of like what's going to happen next is crazy. I can't wait. But I'm just happy to open that door and to let the future producers, Indigenous producers, see where you could go with this music.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's definitely meaningful work.
Yeah.
Okay, I think now we could maybe take a student question here. A lot came in just in the past couple minutes, so there's definitely an audience right now. So someone wants to know, what kind of other hobbies do you like doing except being a DJ?
Being a dad. I think that's, I don't know if we'd call it a hobby, but most of when I'm not making music, it's spending time with my two kids. Yeah.
That's great. And you've spoken about how important it is to have Indigenous representation in the music industry. You kind of spoke about this, but in your role in it. So how do you also see the role of Indigenous artists in shaping the future of music, and how do you think it can be possible to finally achieve that goal?
Yeah, I think it's just power numbers. I think we just need more. I think we need more labels too, or not labels, but like record companies taking chances, not chances, but I don't even think it's taking a chance. I mean, you look at like some of the artists that are coming out of Six Nations, and it's just like, it must be in the water, because there's so much talent, like, and I've done workshops in like remote reserves, and I see the talent that everybody has. It's just that they're not given the chance. And I think I think things need to be, there needs to be an easier way to get that chance for Indigenous kids, and adults too as well, who want to pursue this kind of career.
Yeah, I think that people kind of maybe are scared of what they don't know. I've invited friends to some music shows before, and they automatically say, I won't like that kind of music. But, like I said, some of the songs, most of them, they're really empowering. And not only that, but they sound like a hit song.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll do another one. So you've collaborated with many artists throughout your career. Are there any collaborations in particular that stick out as being meaningful or just a great experience for you?
Well, Snotty Nose Res Kids are, on top of that, list of people that I've always wanted to work with. I knew those guys. I met those guys, years ago at a festival out in BC. And, we've been close ever since, talking, and it was always one of those things. It's like, yeah, like I'm working on an album. I want to get you guys on it. And it just finally came to be. And when it did, it was just, crazy. It's one of my favorite tracks for sure. But, you know, like, same with like Stevie Salas and Randy Bachman, you know, like I would have never thought I'd have those two guys on my album, you know, and just to, you know, Randy Bachman is like a Canadian rock legend, you know what I mean? And just to, and same with, I don't know if you know Stevie Salas, but you know, he used to be the touring guitar guy for Rod Stewart. And so, you know, these guys, you may not know of them, but they, you know, they play a huge part, especially Steve Salas, you know, like he plays a huge part in Indigenous music. You know, he's up there with Buffy St. Marie, you know what I mean? So I think those guys are, you know, at the top of the list of collaborators that I still can't believe that it happened and went down. So.
Do you have any other exciting collabs coming up that you can speak about?
Well, I can't really speak on it too much, but I can definitely say there's.
I mean, it's okay. It's a small group right here. You can tell us.
Yeah, I've been there's a lot of songs, like there's a Buffy St. Marie song that we've been working on for a long time. That's, you know, eventually going to see the light of day. But you know, there's right now just working on the new album, probably not released until 2023. But yeah, there's some pretty good collaborators that are lined up. So
awesome. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So one of the students asked an interesting question. They asked who made the regalia for your dancers, and do you partake in the traditional dancing as well?
I don't. The regalia that was made for the dancers, I'm not too sure where they got it from. So I'm not really sure. But when I perform, I wear a vest that was made by an artist named Rebirth from. He's out west, so he takes like my ideas and then puts them on the clothes that I wear. So
what about the shirt you're wearing right now? Is there any artists you want to shout out for?
OXDX. These guys are from Arizona. It's a small company out of Arizona.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, so they're Indigenous people owned company running their own thing out there.
So one of our staff actually asked this question. You may know her husband. She asked, how many drum groups have you collaborated with, and bonus points if you can name them all.
Oh man, you know what? Like it's probably I've collaborated probably with about 6. Really, you know, it's for the first album like that we worked on for Nation to Nation when I was with Tribe. Counting that, yeah, there's been about six drum groups. You know, we got a Black Bear, Chippewa Travelers, Black Lodge, Northern Cree obviously is a huge one. That's the one that I've been, you know, I've used on my albums a bunch of times. Yeah, so I think and I've used not only just the big drum groups, but the smoke singers too, like I'm drawing a blank. Brian General and Fraser Sundown. They're from London. Brian's from Six Nations. You know, they've helped me sample and record some stuff too for the album. So yeah, it's not just the big drum groups too. It's you know, like, and that's the thing too, is like I wanted to incorporate more of the instruments and the singing from my area, from where I'm from. You know, so it was really important for me to incorporate that, especially with like Ty Smoke, who comes out and dances with me too. You know, that really holds, you know, close to my heart, because that's, you know, the style that's in my area, you know, where I'm from, my territory. So yeah, I would say, I think that's the collaborators so far. You know, we have some lined up for this new album too. So yeah.
Can you talk about the new album at all, or is that in the wraps?
Yeah. Well, what do you want to know?
Oh, anything that you're able to share with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe what some of the tracks are about, maybe the overall theme, if you have that discovered yet, or any kind of thing that would be interesting.
Yeah. I think if I give anything away, it might give too much away. So we'll keep that.
Well,
we'll keep it under wraps. Yeah. Okay. Good try though. It was...
Someone asked, what is your favorite song that you created and why?
It would probably be, well, I mean, Electric Powwow Drum, it holds a place in my heart just because it's the first song that I did, you know, and changed everything, the way I look at music, the way I make music. So, you know, that's probably one of the ones that is a big one. But Indomitable, that's another huge one for me anyway, because that was my first big single as a solo artist. You know, when I released Powwow Step EP, that was, you know, I was doing things not with the group anymore. So, and it turned out, you know, pretty awesome. Like it was on like the the show This Is America, I think it was called. It was like a big show with Sacha Baron Cohen. So it got picked up and it was like the theme title song for that show. So for me, Indomitable was a big step forward for me personally as a solo artist. So I think those two songs are probably my
cool. And what about the opposite end of the spectrum? Is there any song that you just think, oh, I never want to perform that ever again?
Geez, I don't know. I'm sure there's a handful. I just can't think of them.
So someone asks, what advice would you give to youth who are looking to pursue their dreams?
You need to keep yourself around positive people. Like you'll find that when you're doing your thing, there's going to be a lot of people that surround you that aren't good for you. And sometimes you may not be able to see that. But you just need to keep those positive people around you. And positive things will happen. You know what I mean? And once you get to a certain level, and it's hard for you to do everything on your own. And that could be very stressful. As an artist, you get to a plateau where you can't do anything. If you want to get to the next level, you need to get a team together. You need to hire, management. Management is by far, whether it's a tour manager or your personal manager, I think there's a lot of things in this business that as an artist can get pretty stressful if you try to do everything on your own. I know there's artists out there and I give them props for doing it all on their own because I don't know, it's a lot to do. But what that does is it helps you concentrate on what you do best, and what you do best is making music as a producer. So gathering a team together and putting a team together really helped me focus on that.
Great, thank you. And kind of branching off of that, someone is interested in pursuing DJing, and they were asking, do you know of any type of software for beginners to create beats, something entry level?
Well, I use FL Studio. That's what I've been using, for many years now. All the albums that I created were on FL Studio, and I believe you can get a free demo download. So
okay,
that's an easy one to start with. And as far as DJing goes, there's a lot of options as far as like entry level to advanced level to pro level, so, and they all come with price points and what you want to do. So there's a lot of, that's the cool thing about technology, is that it's advanced so much nowadays. There's so many controllers, so many DJ things. If you want to DJ, it's out there, just go to Long and McQuaid and I'm sure they can say, if you tell them, listen, I want to start DJing, here's my budget, I'm sure they can hook you up.
So do you think it's better than to do it like in a studio with a team, or do you think someone could produce high quality music just from home?
I won a Juno for making music in my basement. So that should tell you right there.
Yeah,
you don't need an elaborate studio to make, amazing music. The music comes from here and here. It doesn't come from all this other fancy stuff. And that's what I keep telling everybody is, you want proof? I want a Juno in my home studio in my basement. Nothing crazy fancy. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So someone wants to know about your hometown, where you come from, and you can talk about maybe your experience growing up there a little bit.
Fort Erie. I grew up in Fort Erie. I was born in Buffalo, which is like the border it's like, how Detroit is for here. So I have family in Buffalo. I have family here in Fort Erie, and I have family in Six Nations. So it was, growing up, it was all three locations. I would bounce around to all three. So Fort Erie is your average small town. You know what I mean? And there's not much. I mean, me and my brother were probably the only DJs in Fort Erie. You know what I mean? And it's not a very big town. So I was blessed that Toronto was so close. You know what I mean? Like Toronto, when I started DJing, I would look to Toronto because there was a lot of really, like, some of the best DJs in Canada were from Toronto. You know what I mean? So I would, reach out to a lot of the guys in Toronto, and it was, since doing the whole DJ battling thing, I earned that respect, and a lot of people knew who I was. So I was happy to grow up, a stone's throw away from Toronto, because it's the hub of great DJ and great music now.
Awesome. Kind of going back to what we talked about before about the struggle for acceptance in the music industry, do you ever feel like you're unable to get to a certain point because of the music you make? or do you feel like in general the industry is pretty accepting?
I think it's becoming accepting, and it's becoming accepting at a fast rate. You know what I mean? It's really you know, compared to, I mean, just look at the new categories in the Juno Awards, for instance. You know, they made 2 brand new categories where everybody, all the music genres had to compete for just one award now. You know, now there's separate awards for traditional and contemporary. And just like not only that, but I think that you know, like for instance, Record Store Day that just happened, the label printed my album up, you know, for Record Store Day. And that's a huge thing, you know, for as an Indigenous artist. Like I would have never thought in a million years I'd have my record out on vinyl. You know what I mean? So things are definitely changing, you know what I mean? And I think it's you know, it's my job to help that, you know, to help to keep this change happening. So like I said, so it's easier for this next generation to come and fill the gaps and be the future of music.
Well, thank you for the work you're doing. It's people like you that make that possible. So
thank you.
Thank you so much. What other musical artists have inspired you?
Oh, I don't know. Like that for me, it's everywhere. It's like I listen to so much different music, like so many different styles of music. Like Billy Strings, for instance, I was listening to on the way up here. Billy Strings is a bluegrass. He's like a young bluegrass player, but bluegrass plays a huge, you know, part in my music because I would go down to my grandma's house down the bush in Six Nations, and she would have records, bluegrass vinyl, all over the place, and that's all I would hear when I would go down there. And it just makes me reminisce of such happy and good times. And there's so many good bluegrass players down in Six Nations too. So, you know, that's something that influences me as well. But, you know, I listen to everything from, you know, like rock music to classic. I always say like, there's only 2 kinds of music, good music and bad music. So it's whatever it is.
And would you ever consider kind of going in a different music direction? Would you consider
always, yeah,
collaborating with a non-Indigenous artist?
Yeah, I'm always, I'd hate to say it, but the collaborations, there are a number of non-Indigenous people that are on this next album that are going to be, you know, that is, you know, I'm trying to think outside of the box as much as I can, and I think it's as an artist, you know, it's comfortable being in the same, you know, I could have put out, you know, 50 powwow step albums, but you know, it's always comfortable as an artist to get outside of that box and get out of your comfort zone. You know what I mean? And you'd be surprised at what type of things happen when you get outside that comfort zone.
Yeah, that's interesting. So when you are going to do a song like that, because the person's not Indigenous, do you still talk about the messages that you typically would in a song, like resistance and resilience and decolonization, or do you kind of focus it more to more of a general theme?
It all depends on the song and what the song is about and what type of song, really. You know, like I released the song called Taken Off, and it doesn't have any powwow samples in it. It's just a straight up like hip hop song with 2 people, Too Many Zoos and Roro. And it got like, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with Indigenous music or anything like that. You know what I mean? But that's cool because, you know, I'm an Indigenous producer. You know, I don't necessarily have to make Indigenous music, but the music that I make is Indigenous just because I'm Indigenous. You know what I mean? So it's cool to see, like, we released that song, and 2 hours after the song dropped, we got a call from Sportsnet saying that they want to license the song for the playoff hockey season. So stuff like that. Like, so like now, you know, if you watch a Leafs game or any Canadian on Sportsnet, you'll hear my song, you know, going into the commercials and coming out of commercials. You know what I mean? So, I mean, like, that's the thing. It's like, I would love to see a powwow step song in that same situation, you know, in that same space. But I think this is a good way to get there. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to take those steps to get this music into those spots, into those different spaces, you know. So.
That's fun. That must be really fun. Have you ever been to a game and heard it live?
Well, I've never been to a game to hear it live, but I've had people, you know, send me messages on my phone saying, "Oh, we just heard your song," you know, and so.
Oh, that's gotta make you feel proud.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah, so we have another question here from a student, and they want to know, have you ever encountered any kind of struggle while making music that maybe had you thinking, no, I should give up? And if so, how did you persevere?
You know what? It was Probably just around COVID time. I think it was around then, like every artist, when you're making music, you kind of hit a brick wall. It happens to everybody. It's like writer's block if you're, writing. You get that block, and it's kind of what happened. What would happen before is that would happen, but I had the chance to get out and listen to live music and listen to go see a band and stuff like that, and just become inspired, because that's where a lot of my inspiration comes from, is listening to other music, right? So when COVID kind of hit, it kiboshed that whole thing. It's like, okay, well, I can't get out, and now what am I going to do? But I think what it did was really kind of it humbled me, and it made me kind of focus on my family, and focus on, okay, so where's my inspiration is going to come from now. I didn't know that my inspiration was all around me, and which was the basis for the War Club album. My daughter, she's the first person you hear on the album. She introduces the album. My wife is on one of the tracks, and my son is on the interlude. So I don't think that would have happened if it wasn't for COVID. Who knows? But yeah, that's probably the only good thing about having about COVID. But like I said, my inspiration usually came from watching live bands and everything like that. So it kind of, yeah.
Sorry, I completely forgot what I was going to ask there. We'll just go to a student question then.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider starting a creative music group for young Indigenous people?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Something in the works actually right now.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Can you talk about it?
No.
Okay.
I know. I'm sorry. I can't talk about a lot of stuff, but you got to keep things surprised.
Yeah. Do you know, would you do anything other than being a DJ? Like, have you ever thought about doing something else, or was that just your one path?
DJing, the thing is like people don't want to go out and see a 60-year-old DJ up there. You know what I mean?
Well, I would. Why
Yeah.
not?
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
maybe some people, but I mean, I think I'm kind of gearing myself more towards the producer side of things, and getting into like cinematic soundtracks and like music for, TV, music for movies, soundtracks, stuff like that. That's really been a big interest in mine, and I've been kind of dabbling in it a bit. So it's interesting for sure.
Still in the music industry, though.
Yeah, still in the music. Music's the only thing I'm good at. So I mean, I'm gonna be in the music industry somehow.
Mhm.
So whether that be making music, DJing, or finding young talent to help grow their talent. So yeah, whatever it is, I'm sure.
Actually, that's a really good point that you made, and I just have a message for young people out there. You can have a passion and transform into a career multiple different ways.
Mhm.
Like the music industry is just not one set path. You can do so
No.
many different things. Same with writing, video games. So
Yeah.
anything you have a passion for, you can take that and turn it into a career.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
yeah, music industry, you don't have to give up. If you don't go one way, then there's a million other jobs in that same field that you can
Totally.
take to. So yeah, thank you for
Totally.
that.
Yeah, and that's a lot of things that a lot of when I do workshops with youth, they don't realize that, like, if you want a career in music, it's not, you just don't have to make music. You could be a TM, you could be an agent, you can be there's I have a list of and there's about 50 to 60 different things that you could make a career out of in music. It just doesn't necessarily have to be a songwriter, or,
Yeah, like even if you watch a movie or show at the end, all those credits, all those people
exactly.
had a part to play in creating that.
Totally.
Yeah. This is another question from one of our staff members.
Yeah.
Why is it important to include drums, the heartbeat, Mother Earth, in your music?
Oh, I think that's where everything starts. Like a lot of the times when I'm making music, it all starts with the drum. Usually if I'm making power step, I work around it. I listen to the drum and I listen to the singing and I work around it. A lot of the times, sometimes I'll do the opposite way, but for the most part, it starts from there. Those are the roots of the music, right? So it's got to start there.
Mm-hmm. And it's so empowering too.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
hear that.
And a lot of the times the drumming and the singing kind of guide me. They almost guide me to make this song. You know what I mean? And it's not me like trying to fit something to this. It's a magical thing.
Yeah, for sure. So someone wants to know, how long do your collabs take from the beginning to the final project?
It depends. It depends on how busy our schedules are and when we're doing it. Like usually in the summertime is a busy season for artists. So we're touring and doing all this. Usually we leave all that stuff till like the wintertime. but we make those connections. Like I'll make those connections during the summer when I meet different artists at festivals. We'll be like, hey, I got a song, let's collaborate, and then we'll keep in touch. And then over the winter, that's when we start to collaborate. So I mean, it all depends on how much time they have or how big their piece is, you know, that they want to give me. But yeah, it's like the War Club song that I collaborated with Snotty Nose, like that was, you know, I showed them the tracks, and it was funny because like they wanted some beats, so I sent them 3 beats, and I said, here's 3 beats that I want to use for my album. I was like, listen to them, tell me which ones you want to do. And then like, you know, an hour later they got back to me and they're like, we want all 3. And they're like, can you make like a song with all 3? And I'm like, sure. So we kind of fit all 3 together, and then they did their thing. And that collaboration probably, you know, within 2 weeks, we had all the vocals done and everything done. So that was pretty quick, you know, quick turnaround. But sometimes they can take a while. Like it all depends. It all depends on the schedules of the artists and stuff like that.
And are you planning to collaborate with them again at some point?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
On the next album?
I can't say.
Can you talk about any upcoming projects or performances you have? I know you said that you may be doing some touring in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah, we were doing a bunch of dates in Canada, as well as I'm actually DJing for another artist, which is going to be fun. Like I've never done that for a while. So I'm DJing with an artist named Charlie Tuna, who is going to be touring in the UK. So I'm going to be with him touring as his DJ for a bunch of dates in the UK and in the States. So I'm looking forward to that because that's going to be, you know, it's different. It's outside of what I normally do. So, but I can't wait. It's going to be fun.
Is that the most rewarding part of your career, to perform in front of an audience?
Oh, the most rewarding is seeing the faces and seeing the people dance, and seeing just how the music can change someone's just emotion. You know, like you can, I often when I'm DJing, you know, I keep an eye on the crowd and I just watch, because that's, as an artist, that's where your energy is coming from. You know, my energy is good because their energy is good. And just to see the faces when you drop something new, or if they're hearing something for the first time, that's it. That's the thing that artists look for, and that's what I love.
Yeah, the more energetic the crowd is, the more energetic you are naturally. Sure. Someone asked, how long does it take to build a DJ set?
It takes, you know, it takes a while. I mean, for me, my DJ sets usually take, like, I'll make a DJ set for like a summer tour, and then once that tour is done in the wintertime, I'll start working on the next summer's set. So, you know, for me personally, it takes all winter usually to come up with a new set, and then it takes about 3 or 4 shows once the summer starts hitting and I start playing to kind of get that down to like a set where I'm liking it. So, yeah.
Another student asked, how do you get ideas for your songs?
Everywhere, really. I mean, like, that's the thing. It's like inspiration can come from anywhere. And that's my thing. It's like, you know, sometimes my son will show me a song, you know, that he's been listening to. You know, he's 14. So it's like, sorry, he's 15. Like they're getting so old quick. But he's, you know, he shows me a lot of music too. And yeah, so right now I would say, you know, he's one of my biggest inspirations as far as music goes, because he's kind of keeping this old guy up to par with what's happening. So
I think you kind of touched on this a little bit. But did you have any professional or training to become a DJ, or where did you really learn to do that, or you were all self-taught?
Self-taught, yeah. I took lessons I took guitar lessons, and that was it. That was the only kind of music lessons I took. But as far as DJing and producing, I self-taught.
Well, sometimes it comes naturally. You know, you can just be a natural born singer or you know, writer. But definitely, would you say though that having some kind of training would improve your craft, or do you think that sometimes you can just kind of do it on your own?
Who knows? I know some people that have gone to music school to learn an instrument, and they ended up hating the instrument because there's too much focus on not the instrument, but the technical side of things. And
Yeah.
so that's what I think teaching myself, if I think, I don't even know. I can't even say if I would be better or worse. You know what I mean? So who knows what
You
that
may end up hating it.
exactly.
Yeah.
I could have hated it. I could have, got lessons and been like, I can't do this, So I did go to school though for engineering, for
Okay.
audio engineering. So I did go to school for that. So I knew I was going to be in this area of, whether it was going to be an artist or a career out of it, in the studio recording people. So
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And where did you do that?
in Stony Creek, it's Recording Arts Canada, it was called.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, shout out to all my Recording Arts Canada people.
All right, well, I know it's not quite 2 yet, but unless some of the students want to send in some more questions, I believe that is everything for today.
Cool.
Yes, but thank you so much for everyone for sending in all your questions. These were some awesome ones. And thank you so much for being here and for answering all my questions and for dealing with me trying to get stuff out of you. But, we'll just have to wait. We'll have to wait and follow your
Speaking
career.
of natural, you're natural. This is great. Thank you so much. This
You
is
were
awesome.
too. You were talking about, you're great. You answered everything perfectly.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you so much.
Good job.